welcome back once again to the Good Enough Gaming Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. I am joined by Trevor, the bearded one, Daryl, the bearded one, and Jordan, the bearded one.
Hey-o.
And today's did I announce the episode title? I did not. I did not.
It's a good start.
You're fired.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. Your former host. This week's episode is entitled "Who's Making All That Bracket?" Well, it's that time of year again, where we here at Good Enough Gaming have taken it upon ourselves to decide what the actual game of the year is for 2024. Because we're
never wrong.
No,
Never.
no.
We have rules. We have strict rules.
Yes.
Criteria.
We don't bend.
Yes.
Fuck that.
Our rigorous process and criteria have left us with 16 games that will face off against one another for 2024 gaming supremacy. There will be arguing, some debate for the most acclaimed critics that we know. Us. We are the smartest. Now, it may not be March, but get ready for some madness as we see who is in the bracket and who's going to win it this year. Game of the year, GEG style, starts now.
Let's
You
get
didn't even
it.
say the rhyme.
Daryl's so upset.
You stewarded. Let's see who in the bracket can hack it. Come on, man. That's amazing.
Daryl reads the
I'm
intros,
sorry.
everybody. Just a heads up.
And I mostly read them.
50-50
Captain
whether
Ad
they're
Lib
read
here.
correct
Just-
or not.
Just like in cutscenes, Kyle only reads half the dialogue.
I would say that's accurate.
Well, what's the criteria, Kyle? Break it down for the peeps. What's going on?
Okay, so we have separated it into quarters. So the quarters of the year when the games were released, just to sort of keep it cohesive. There's no remasters, there's no remakes, there's no DLC.
Nope.
This is all fresh release.
No bent rules.
No.
banned rules.
Game
Like,
of the
No
Year
bad
awards.
rules.
No, there's no DLC. There's nothing. No.
we might be morons sometimes, but this is just one of those things that we have really dialed in really
This
well.
is where this is where we draw the line. This is our moral stance.
Yeah. Hey, no Silent Hill, no Dead Space last year.
No.
We're
No
not
Shadow of the
fucking-
Erd Tree.
No Erd Tree.
Exactly. Not
No
fucking around.
Final
Last of
Fantasy
Us.
7 Rebirth, even though I feel like that's like kind of slightly different, but
I mean, Skyrim almost snuck in there.
that's
Got
true.
real close.
Well, we
Yeah,
know
Skyrim
GTA
on
5 is
calculator.
in, so yeah.
GTA 6. Still
Doom Calculator Edition
Yeah,
almost
right.
made it.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go quarter by quarter. Will we go from quarter one to quarter four? Who knows? We'll see what I feel like. But we'll start with quarter one. Our four contestants, our four brackets,
Competitors.
competitors. That's bracketeers. So in the fourth seed, we have Rise of Ronin. Third seed is Dragon's Dogma 2, which will be taking on the number 2 seed, Tekken 8.
yeah.
And Rise of Ronin will be competing against Helldivers 2 for quarter one. So I think let's go with the 1-4 seed first. We've got Helldivers and Rise of Ronin. Would anyone like to state their case?
I think Jordan needs to state the case of Rise of Ronin.
I was going to say, like,
Because I think he's the only one that really played that game.
It's like we all played Helldivers. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think you have to factor in Helldivers, just like the impact across the industry, right?
The virality of it.
Yeah, like, you know, there's only
The game broke the internet. Like it,
Yeah. Like there's really only one game a year, if that, where you have non-gamers asking you like, what is this Helldivers thing I keep seeing?
Yeah.
Like,
Why are we
break it down
spreading
for me.
democracy? What's going
Yeah.
on? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Who made this Star Troopers game?
Yeah.
like,
I'm doing my part.
yeah. Like Rise of the Ronin, honestly, it was an enjoyable game, but it did absolutely nothing revolutionary. It was the most like, safe play video game that you could play. It's open world
Let's make
Neo.
a stealth ninja game.
Yeah, like it's open world Neo for anybody that played the Neo series. It's it's like a more ninja version of Assassin's Creed. Like if you've played any of those games, I don't have to say anything else. You're like, oh, okay, yep, I know exactly
I get it.
how that game is going to play. So
The tropes,
enjoyable, but it's not gonna. I played that back in I think April, and I haven't thought about it again since April.
There you go. Now, has anyone played Helldivers since the start of the year?
I jumped into
question.
it a little bit. It is. I jumped into it like a little bit after. But again, like playing it solo or with randoms just wasn't the same as like the group fuckery that we had.
Yeah,
The
friendly fire is one of the best.
Oh my God.
Features.
And just like the ragdoll physics.
And just being able to yell at each other while
Yes.
getting lost in this wasteland. Like, yeah, we'll see how it might fizzle out later in the bracket, but I think, like, for
At
like
its
Jordan
peak.
says, for what it did to the internet and like how fun it was off the bat as a essentially discounted game as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it just like their servers got slammed
Yes,
because
they were
everyone
not
was
prepped for that.
No.
and just like I don't even like the meme. Like everyone just played into it. It was so
Mhm.
great. Like you had, what was it,
Yeah.
Jeff, or who was the server guy who was doing all the changes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's just making up
Jeff or whatever.
stupid numbers and
Oh shit!
just
yeah,
dropping things.
You guys
whenever
beat
want
this
it.
way too quick, so I'm just gonna like up the number. Fuck you, right? And
Yeah.
then everyone on the internet just getting into spreading democracy was like it was so much fun. Like it was up there with like the Pokemon Go's, except it was purely online of just people
Yeah.
just being like, I'm all in on this, and I'm gonna cosplay as this for like the next month.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hilarious.
And I mean, like we saw some Helldiver cosplay at GameCon when we
Oh,
went.
so
did.
good.
We did. All right,
So-
so is it unanimous? Are we just saying first seed beats fourth seed? It's Helldivers on this one.
I think
so, yeah.
yeah.
I think that's
I think-
an easy pick.
The Rise of Ronin didn't rise very far.
No,
That's what she said.
Oh.
titled Cal sex tape. Heyo.
Oh,
Oh.
Oh.
God,
All right,
Gigaballs
next
down.
matchup.
Oh yeah. Next matchup. We thank you for moving that along, Jordan.
You're welcome.
Next matchup, we have Tekken 8 versus Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, like the fighting game releases this year, like Mortal Kombat last year was
That was last year.
it was last year. Street Fighter 6 was last year.
Yep.
I mean, we have a later fighting game coming up,
Mhm.
but to be honest, like I haven't really looked at Tekken. I've seen highlights. I've seen people getting like perfect rounded by King just with like wrestling moves.
Oh yeah, he's got some broken
Oh, my
combos.
God.
That's awesome.
I
But-
feel like he's always had broken combos though.
Yeah, that's just a standard King thing.
Yeah.
Has Tekken done kind of the Street Fighter Mortal Kombat thing? Like, do they have seasons? Like, as the non-fighting game person here,
Good question.
like, what do they do? Like, I know they probably do batches of characters
Mhm.
like down the line.
Yeah, so they have
Do
like
do,
DLC,
seasonal
like
content?
add-on characters. They don't really have seasonal content as much as like
Okay.
Tekken is to me the premier like competition fighting game. Like
Yeah.
if you
It's
really
for the
want to get
pros.
into the technical like side of it, Tekken is like the number one balanced fighter game that like you want to play competitively and have as equal a playing ground as possible going into
Yeah.
a tournament.
Yeah.
So like it's if you're amazing at it, you are amazing at every fighting game. Like,
Yeah.
because it's just it's just
transferable skills.
Yeah,
It's a hard game. I mean, shit,
the story of Tekken often doesn't make any sense.
Like, remember when we watched Tekken at GameCon? We watched some of the competitive matches that happened on the big stage. Like,
that was Street Fighter.
No, we saw some Tekken as well.
No,
Tekken was there.
Was it?
Tekken was there. Yeah.
Oh,
it's crazy.
I don't remember that
though.
Yeah,
like to see it real time, what the pros can do, or even like
it's amazing.
Semi pros, it is pretty cool.
Even okay, personally, even going back and watching like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 highlights of guys in those like the big like Evo competitions, like holy shit,
people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, not me.
Just mash all the buttons.
Anyways, Tekken 8 was a super polished game right out the gate. Had a pretty immersive like story mode. Like there was a lot of narrative in there. It's very, anime-esque by the end, like you're fighting in space and just like stuff like random stuff like that is happening. But it is a really, really good fighting game with lots of really good combat components. And if you're like a fighting game enthusiast, this is kind of a huge addition to like an already storied franchise of Tekken, and like upholding their high standard of excellence when it comes to the mechanics of fighting.
Totally.
The game looked beautiful too, like visually.
Yeah, it's a visually stunning game. So
it always looks good.
Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't know. Have any of you guys played it yet? I think most of us are kind of wait. Jordan played it a bit. I think Daryl and I were maybe waiting for a sale.
Yeah, I didn't really get into it. It wasn't pressing for me. I was too busy playing Tekken during this time.
Yeah, so like I skipped Dragon's Dogma at launch because while the reviews were pretty good, it had a bunch of optimization issues, especially on I mean, honestly, console had issues, but PC did too. It really it wasn't until maybe September where the majority of the PC issues were kind of fixed. So usually when games are that bad technically, I tend to stay away for a bit. I bought the game on sale on Steam maybe a month ago. Sad to say, I'm probably only maybe 5 hours into the game. I adore that franchise though. Like the first Dragon's Dogma came out on the PS3, and at the time it kind of turned into a cult classic over the years. The combat of like Shadow of the Colossus, jumping on big monsters and bosses and having to like climb to different spots and hit weak points, and that shit is super cool in an RPG. And they give you a lot of freedom to kind of tackle the story however you want. You can even recruit. You can recruit pawns, they're called. And the way the story works, super confusing, but you can recruit other players' pawns from the online server. Yeah, so
like pre-built,
Wonder
characters.
Pick.
Yeah. So like you'll jump into this alternate. Yeah. Like you'll jump into a different dimension and you'll see like this pawn there, and then it's got the player's name above it, and it's like that's kind of cool. You can see what other people's creations are. So yeah, like if you're into medieval fantasy RPGs, it's the game is very, very good. I'm not much into Tekken personally. I appreciate it from a distance. I just know I would be ass at it. I stick to the.
I'm not good at it right away. What's the fucking point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I quit. I quit at this stage.
Like I stick to the Mortal Kombats and the Street Fighters and the Injustice type games for fighters. So, just based on that, I would go Dragon's Dogma for this matchup personally.
I think I gotta, like, as someone who just watches the fighting scene entirely from the outside, I think I gotta go Tekken. I think the popularity, and I think it's gonna have like some better longevity just with competitive. Dragon's Dogma, I know, yeah, like you said, a lot of people were really hyped early. Unfortunately, it was one of those like, I bought it early, and then it's kind of like the cyberpunk effect where you're like, I bought it early, but it's broken. And then
It's broken.
And it's like, oh no.
Oh,
Kind of makes it hard to go back, even though it probably has been fixed and is great. I just know sometimes when I look at Dragon's Dogma 2, I get a little bit of that, like, just like a hint, a whiff of Monster Hunter, like grindiness to some of it.
I can see that.
So I just like struggle. Like it's a game I want to play. I want to try it at least. But I think
I'll give it the college try.
Yeah. I experimented with Dragon's Dogma once in college.
It does have the classic like Capcom jankiness. Like for anybody that's played a Capcom game, you probably know exactly what I mean when I say that.
Capcom RPGs are just a little weird. Like there's something that they do with the combat and how you actually like do things that I'm always just like,
why? Who made this choice?
There's so many other games that you could have like lightly copied within this story and it would have worked better.
Because there's a plethora of buttons doesn't mean you have to change them. Like
go see our episode on complexity.
Yes.
Yes.
Good callback. Good callback.
Yeah. I agree. I think Tekken takes this one, and I do because there is more than just the regular amount of modes in this one. Like there's all kinds of different things you can do. Like you create a character and you battle your way up through the arcade scene supremacy. And so like you pick fighter and you're like, going from arcade to arcade in different areas, and you're trying to show that you're the best at playing Tekken as cool. Well. And so it was a fun,
meta.
I know it's actually so fun. So I think they had a lot to offer and a lot of customization pieces that were really nice in this game too for the characters. Not just like, oh, you've unlocked this outfit, here it is. Like you can customize all the colors on like every outfit and stuff, so you can make the character look exactly the way you want and kind of pull stuff from previous games.
Pair of foam posits.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Foam posits are in the game because
I remember seeing.
Because he wears them and it's like, it's hype. But anyways, I think Tekken is kind of a very under the radar game, even for this this bracket, but it is a very, very high level fighting game. So I say Tekken.
Just a quick fact for Daryl, for Kyle, because Kyle loves a good stat.
I love stats.
Supposedly, as of right now, according to Google, Tekken 8 has 11.8 million copies sold.
Ooh.
And Dragon's Dogma is at 10.
Okay.
They both sold around 2 million, like in the first kind of like month-ish.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is
all right. I withdraw my vote.
Do we want to finish all of quarter one voting, or do we want to move on to quarter two and come back?
No, let's bring it back
the
later.
Round of 8. Okay, we'll come back for the round of 8.
Yeah.
So Tekken, we're calling that as Tekken.
We're calling Tekken.
I think so.
All right, I seeded those properly. All right.
Nice. Daryl was our chief tournament organizer.
Yeah.
As always.
If I did this right, NCAA, get at me, bro.
Yeah. All right, so quarter two, starting from the bottom, we have F1 24. A little racy kind of action going on.
Yeah.
In the 3 spot, we have Senua Saga 2, or Senua Saga Hellblade 2. I could probably just call it Hellblade 2. In second spot, we have Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. A little spooky. And in the first slot, we have Stellar Blade. Now, I am
what a quarter.
I am fucking useless on all of this because I have no goddamn idea. Jordan, have you played any of these?
I've played everything except for F1.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think he's almost got.
He saw that game and he said, "F that."
Jordan is most likely to have played most of these.
Yes, that's his high school most likely, yearbook. Yeah, superlative.
Yeah, F1 racing just isn't it's not my thing.
it's not your thing, but I would say it's better than Stellar Blade. If we're going to start with that matchup, I think F1, like Tekken, has better legs, not boobs. It has better legs, but not boobs than Stellar Blade.
I can confirm better boobs than Stellar Blade for sure.
F1 didn't include boob physics in their calculations.
No, they didn't have the.
I feel like that was like the whole
volleyball.
selling feature of Stellar Blade was just
skin tight. Is it really a costume if it's just like painted on? Like if it's just body paint, does that count as? Does it count?
That sounds like some of the
classic social media again. You know, they fucking take something and just run with it. It kind of turned into the new like Resident Evil vampire mommy thing that people had. Like it kind of turned into the same thing with Stellar Blade.
There's a lot of desperate young men on the internet. I hate to say, there's a lot of horny teenagers out there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think
I'm kind of with Trevor. Like Formula One, and I just want to say this: the F1 games have historically, I don't think have done super well. Like,
I think everything F1 is kind of on like an upslope slightly. Like Drive to Survive.
I was just about to say that. Like Drive to Survive has exploded the Formula One scene. Like before, it was just for rich people, and now everybody is like
still for rich people.
Yes, to go and be part of it.
To actually go see
like,
it, yeah.
For people watching it now, like now it's wide open.
It adds more like drama to it, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, and that's
no question.
I don't think a documentary series has ever made like, especially North America, right? Like F1's huge in Europe, but in North America, I don't think a documentary has made people like more excited about something.
Yeah, but it's worked, and I really feel like as making the games for Formula One, you have to step it up. Like you have to now meet this excitement and this level of engagement from the sport itself and meet it with a good game. And I think F1 24 is, like, from what I know and I've read, has done a really good job of that.
They pretty much take the. Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
I was just gonna say, I think it kind of gets lost in the shuffle too, just because like with racing rigs kind of becoming more popular right now, and there's a lot of like sim games on Steam that don't ever hit console. Like iRacing is probably one of the largest ones out there. And like iRacing, you have to pay a subscription fee to be able to play that game. But it has everything from track racing to NASCAR to like it has a bunch of stuff.
And it's supported, right? Like they're constantly doing stuff.
Yeah. So like I think for the people that are super hardcore, they might skip F1 and kind of go to something like iRacing. But I agree with Daryl. Like if anybody ever watched the Netflix series, like it's
awesome.
It's kind of like taking
a good thing to jump into.
I would say most people, like, they're either going to have come from a Forza or a Gran Turismo. And if you've got like even a racing, if you get so intense into it and you love racing and you're like, I'm going to get the wheel, I'm going to get the setup, but I have a console. I don't have a, supercomputer here to run this. Going from Gran Turismo to F1 is like taking off the training wheels.
Yeah.
Right. It's got a lot. Yeah. It's very similar, but you're 100%. Not in like the mini Miata Cup.
No,
right? Going from going 50 miles an hour around this track.
0 to 60 eventually.
It takes 24 minutes to finish the Daihatsu race in the
oh my god. Right? And it's just like, you're trying to keep up with these cars with a racing line and no one's doing above 50. Whereas like, you get to the end of Gran Turismo and you're like, well, I want more of that, or I want more of, what I see.
This is it. This is it.
This is the step, right?
I'm going to go 0 to 200 in like 3 seconds.
Yeah. This is the 2K. This is the 2K online version of racing. A little more than Gran Turismo.
So I have a little caveat here.
Okay.
I was checking Metacritic ratings because still I think it's something to factor into.
It always.
Yes. So Stellar Blade had a rating of about 81 or so at this time, with a pretty favorable user score too.
Okay.
Bet they do like it.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. With
Wow.
with 6,000 plus reviews, user
When I wear-
reviews.
When I wear my sunglasses, no one can see where I'm looking.
Yeah. F124 has a meta score of 72.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
It's actually lower than I
But-
thought it would be.
Yeah.
What's the
But-
user score?
4.5 out of 10.
Really?
Predominantly-
Wow.
with predominantly negative reviews.
Okay.
Lots of complaints that it's wrecking the franchise, that it's just a reskin of the two previous iterations.
Ah, so it is a 2K game.
Never mind. I retract this previous
It's
statement.
Sounds like,
I guess it's a sports game.
I mean,
Yes.
that is one of my issues with F1 is they do a yearly release. It would be like Gran Turismo doing a yearly release. Like it just doesn't make sense to do
All
this.
you have to
Especially
do is just update who's driving the car. Because
Well,
if I've learned anything from Drive to Survive, it's just that the drivers just rotate around from the teams.
but even then, like
Yeah, exactly.
in the game, you are like a new driver. So the only thing you would be updating is to the new car model, right? It's got a little bit of aerodynamics, different power. Like realistically speaking, the way they run that game, I don't think the drivers like have statistics.
Oh.
that I'm
I see.
aware of.
Okay, it's just
Right?
the
Like a lot of it
vehicle.
is online, but when you're playing career, yeah, it's like I don't know if they're like, Max Verstappen is this much better than Lance Stroll, which is
It's not like a
super obvious in real life, but
RPG.
I don't know if they add that if it's just car and then like, difficulty level
I got you.
Mm.
for you. So
I see what you're saying.
but I agree with Jordan, like that's very minimal. Like there's only so many types of like even Formula 3 to Formula 1 cars.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not
There's not a lot.
no.
No.
Yeah. I mean,
Basically
honestly,
picking your favorite brand and going with it because like
Yeah,
everything is
yeah.
so
Yeah.
similar.
yeah, just based on that alone, like in good conscience, I can't vote through like a quote unquote yearly sports game.
Yeah, that's fair. I can respect
You
that.
turned
I'll
the
vote for
tide on me
boobs.
here,
It's
Jordan.
fine.
Not that I feel good about Stellar Blade moving on either. Because
Okay, the only reason I have it in the first seed out of this like bracket of time, just to be clear, is for similar reasons for Helldivers. Is when this game came out, there was a lot of things coming out on the internet about it.
Yes.
yeah.
There was a lot of chatter.
So you're saying it was very top heavy.
It was
There's a lot of
topic
things
heavy.
coming out at home too.
It's very topic heavy. So I do think that does play a factor as well in this, and I do have to say, like, I always appreciate a game that kind of breaks the internet or pushes a lot of content out without even trying.
Mhm.
People are talking about it and it's a discussion piece. So I vote Stellar Blade for this one just because of its online presence, like period. But
Yep. I can support that.
Yeah.
I think you turned my tide, especially Jordan. Now that we were like, wait, this is a 2K game. This is an
Oh,
EA
yeah, there it is.
title. I think I got to go against that.
fuck you, 2K, we hate you. No,
Yeah, I'll save my gameplay gripes for Stellar Blade for the next round. Talk more.
All right.
all right.
All right.
It's going through. It's gonna
All
be
right.
gritty. It's going to be in the final 8.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. We have Hellblade 2 and Banishers: Ghost of New Eden. So, before we hop into it, we're gonna do the Metacritic from the get-go.
Okay.
Just because
Bring it,
I
Kyle.
say so.
Bring it.
Yeah. Metascore of 81, predominantly positive reviews. User score is 7.4 for Hellblade 2. So it's kind of like
Okay.
mixed average. On the other side, Banishers, with a very rare agreement between the Metascore and the user score.
Ooh.
Metascore
happen
is
often.
78 and the user score is 7.8.
Wow. Dead on.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and that's
very,
with a
very-
lot of reviews too. So,
Interesting.
again,
Jordan,
games.
to you.
Jordan.
Take it away, buddy. Let us know. What's the deal?
Honestly, I was looking through our whole bracket, and And there's two matchups to me that are very, very competitive that could go either way. And this is one of them. I just recently beat Banishers Ghosts of New Eden last week. Holy fuck, is that game good? I was explaining it to Trevor, trying to convince him to play it because we have family plan for Steam as a group, and so I've now deleted my copy, and so it's all Trevor's. But I basically explained it as it's a Plague Tale, like it's a story equivalent quality wise to the Plague Tale series, but with combat more similar to like a God of War game. Like it's over the shoulder, camera kind of zoomed in, melee based combat. Okay. And then throughout the story, you slowly get different abilities and upgrades to make your character stronger. You can swap between the male character who is alive and the female character who is dead, but her spirit hasn't moved on. So basically,
spirit lives on.
Yeah. So you get to use like ghost abilities as her. And then if you're using him, it's a sword and like a musket rifle type thing.
Oh,
okay. Kyle's perked up at musket.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, but like the story was really cool because we don't get a lot of games that take place in like 1700s America. No. Like it's settlers coming across to New England, Boston area, trying to make a new living, and shit goes wrong, and like it just seems like
a tea party.
Yeah. It was a pretty unique kind of story that we don't get a lot of. No ancient Egypt, no Japanese samurai shit, like something different.
Yeah, old France and plague rats. And
on the flip side, Hellblade 2, I know Xbox this year had a fuck ton of marketing towards that game at the beginning of the year. It was meant to kind of flagship the entire kind of generation for them this year. Like visually stunning, kind of the pinnacle of graphics on a console. It's a Norse mythology story, which I mean, we're almost getting to the point of that being overdone, I would say.
Yep.
Getting there.
But Hellblade, the gripes that people will have, it was very short. So 5-hour game, probably for most.
Ooh.
Whoa.
I can play that. Awesome. That sounds great.
There's not much combat to it, which was a gripe in the first game. They improved it in the second, but it still doesn't have that much. But what makes this game stand out is the audio design. Basically, your character has schizophrenia. And if you play with headphones or if you have a surround sound system, throughout the entire game, you will hear her voice and you will hear another of her voices and another of her voices and another and another and another and another. And like, just if you have
that sounds overwhelming.
It's the way they implement it, though. It's incredible. It is super eerie.
That's cool.
Super eerie. It always has you on edge. Like you're constantly uncomfortable, but in a way that grips you. Like you want to see what happens next.
Okay.
The story is cool. The sound design is one of the most unique things I've ever played. But like I said, the 5-hour campaign for what is effectively an $80 to $90 game, like it is not a discount. It's not a discounted game at all.
Sounds like kind of like an artistic technical exercise.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the first one, like the first one was completely self-published by the developer. And,
okay, that's cool.
And the game was
sold
so
out.
well received that they were bought by Xbox and Microsoft, and they funded the second game. So I mean, with the added funding, honestly, I wish we would have gotten like like to me a story heavy game is like 15 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
15 to 20 is like kind of like a reasonable ask, I think, for something of that nature.
Yeah. And this
5, like something you could realistically
so.
play in one sitting. Like that seems
For $80 to $90?
for like a not just $80 to $90, like not even the value proposition, but as like since like this year with Xbox, like this is the game.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
I
what
can't
else
think
is
of any
keeping
other
people
game.
on Game Pass and Xbox?
Call
Aside
of
from,
Duty.
like, yeah, I can't. Aside from like those things, like if this is your flagship, like impress me game, 5 hours, and it's not like I'm gonna replay
Oops.
it. I'm gonna collect stuff. I'm gonna, grind it out in post game content. It's like story game, cool. Play it once and maybe
Done.
play it a couple years down the line if I really liked it. Like
Mhm.
Yeah,
it just
and,
doesn't
like,
have the same thing as like God of War or even Horizon, right? When you think of that being like, this is a big story game and I've got 60 hours of content and more if I want. No matter how cool it is.
Like to me, like I played it on Game Pass, so there's no extra money out of my pocket. But as with all Xbox games, it releases on Steam as well.
Yep.
And so like I feel bad for any of the people that kind of ignore the Xbox ecosystem and bought it on Steam full price. And they get a 5 hour to 7 hour game. Like I think that's a little bit disappointing.
That's fair. Especially like on you don't get that when you play Steam. Like when you open, like I don't, unless you start seeing reviews or like reviewers talk about it, unless you search it, like a lot of games don't say like, hey, this is roughly a X number of hour game.
Yeah, you have to go looking for that information.
Like you really got to find it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, like you could definitely get bamboozled on something like that, right?
Flim-flammed.
Well, I mean, there's games where it's like, oh, okay, like this is a short indie dev game. I'm expecting it to be 10-ish hours or whatever, right? But like something like that, I wouldn't expect it to be 5 hours.
No.
Yeah, I was surprised.
No, especially with like
I was surprised.
with a cool concept and like sound design like that, you'd think they would want to extend it and like utilize it more.
It's probably
For
so
that
much
reason,
work.
I vote Banishers.
I agree. I think just based on that alone, I think Banishers, and based on what Jordan's told me about the story, which I'm sure we'll get into in the next round, Banishers to me sounds like a game I'm going to pick up and play and absolutely love. So.
All right, Dale, the seating on that one too. Okay.
2 for 2.
I am on fire right now.
Yeah.
All right. Do we, you know what? Let's take a little bit of a fantasy face-off break right now.
Let's argue some more.
Yeah, and then we can come back for quarter 3 and for after the fantasy face-off. So, Daryl, if you would like to take it away to the fantasy face-off. Fantasy face-off. Fight.
So, for those that are new to the game here, and
first, what are you doing?
What do we do here? This is where I pick like any sort of character from any game or show or whatever I decide on that like particular day that I want to pit in the to a fight against the death against somebody else, and and we just decide who's gonna win, and if we're wrong, I doubt it, and if we're right, you're gonna hear about it. Okay,
I doubt it.
If you agree with Kyle, you're probably wrong.
Yeah.
Kyle's got a New Year's resolution.
This week, I kind of wanted to talk about, it's Game of the Year, so I kind of wanted to include last year's Game of the Year into this. So I was thought, could they retain their championship title if I put them against something else? So this week, it's kind of the D&D trope fight of the century. So it is the cast of Baldur's Gate 3 versus the cast of Vox Machina.
Oh, how dare you?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Who's winning?
Are we talking like full? We're talking like 8 on 8. Like we're talking full.
We're not
cast,
full,
not just
full
like
on.
Full team battle.
There's no one-on-ones. It's a team battle.
Full team.
It is like,
Avengers Civil War on a tarmac, 8 on 8.
no like supreme items or anything.
Well, that changes it then because
stock gear. Okay.
Yes,
stock gear, like nothing crazy. I'm not talking like no one's turned into a mind flayer. Like it is from Baldur's Gate, but nobody has their like epic god level item from Vox Machina that like
right. And that changes it massively because like those vestiges of divergence.
Yes.
Like,
so
greatly change. Yeah, I know, right?
It's a lot of big words.
Thanks, Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
Jordan, have you watched Vox Machina yet?
Not even a little bit.
You need to.
Motherfuck. Dude, you would be all
it's
over
so
it.
good.
I guarantee.
If we rag on Kyle
enjoy
for not watching Attack on Titan, I
You
will
have
shame
to
you
watch
for
the
not
show.
watching Vox
Yes.
Machina.
This
I know. It's on the list, I promise.
disappointed.
All right, so
I'm gonna speak first. I'm gonna speak first.
Kyle actually
because
like
it's
knows
always
what's going on
hilarious.
this week.
I
Kyle's-
do.
Yeah.
Kyle's
I
into
do.
this one.
I'm still voting Vox Machina.
wow, okay.
I still think with the characters and the way they fight and the way they work as a team is going to be way more of a cohesive unit than some of the Baldur's Gate characters who are either trying to kill or fuck each other some of the time.
Way more than Vox Machina. I mean, that's there too. Like, let's not ignore that on that
Yes.
side of the fence,
Yes.
but just a little
But
less.
still, I think Vox Machina as a whole, even without the vestiges of divergence, pose a serious threat to everyone. They have taken down multiple dragons. They have taken down all sorts of crazy shit. So I'm going to vote Vox Machina because I love Grog.
Okay. I also love Grog. So.
Daryl is Grog.
Grog is my spirit animal.
Jordan,
Well, I don't know a goddamn thing about Vox Machina. So I think I'll just go. I'll take the bullet if I lose this one. I think Owlbear wins all. I think
Owlbear wins all.
I think the Owlbear
Jordan's
wins
going
all.
devil's advocate here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so Baldur's Gate for me.
Trevor, the deciding vote. Interesting spot
Now-
for you.
This episode, when does this episode come out? The 18th?
Next week. Yeah.
Next week.
Kyle, this is a pre-Christmas miracle. Because I agree with Kyle.
And this isn't just because I'm giving him a PC.
No, this has not been sponsored or paid for. No swindling
Well
here.
done.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
Kyle's point about being more of a cohesive team, whereas like Baldur's Gate follows more of the Divinity style of game where you have to build your team and like, down the road, after you've had sex with everyone, you're all friends, and you're a good family.
Just had one big orgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like besties. But like Vox Machina, there's so many like backstories and side stories where even, certain groups of like pairings of characters have backstory together and have like abilities and things like that
Pretty
together.
large histories.
Yeah. So I think even just that alone, I think we got to go Vox Machina as like, I think Lazelle's going to take out one or two of them for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's not, no one's coming out like unscathed, right? Like no one's coming out with their
this is
full
going to be a
team.
bloody
Totally
battle.
fine. Like there's going to be like two people from Vox Machina left and Baldur's
Yeah.
Gate is just going to be dead, right? Like that's what it's going to come to, but I think I got to go Vox.
All right. Vox Machina wins. Let us
Great.
know if we're right.
Great match.
Let us know
Great
if we're
matchup.
wrong.
That is a great
matchup.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I'm proud of you for that one.
Thank you.
That's a
Rowdy.
really good one.
If you haven't watched Vox Machina,
Oh
Prime
my
Video,
god, dude,
not-
it's
If
so
you have not
good.
played Baldur's
Watch that
Gate,
shit.
please do so.
Oh, fuck.
Baldur's Gate 3 is incredible.
Set aside about 100 hours of time.
Yeah.
Play Baldur's Gate.
I'm like itching to play it third time. I'm gonna play again.
Well, we still got our group game
Wow.
going. We gotta load back in and
Yeah,
try and
we
remember.
still have
Try and teach Kyle
Kyle's.
how to play that game.
We still have
Gotta
Kyle's
drag Kyle through
playthrough, and Daryl and I are still supposed to be doing our evil playthrough at some point. I don't know when,
Oh my god, you guys.
when that's going to happen. But
I only have so much time, and it's basketball season.
You're a teacher and it's Christmas break season.
yeah,
Yeah, with kids at home.
Yeah,
they can go
Semantics.
tobogganing on their
they're like
own.
cartoon characters. The sex doesn't count, right? Like it's not real.
Oh,
Actually, if
okay.
it's the four of us, we don't get many of those scenes. So
No, we
we
don't.
don't.
we just
don't.
murder
Yeah.
things.
We just murder
kill everything.
everything.
Yeah.
We make mistakes.
Okay. Should
Awesome.
we get it back on track for quarter three
Yeah,
here?
let's get back to the bracket.
Yeah. All right. Let's brack at it. So in quarter three, bringing up the bottom and top here, we have EA College Football in the 4th spot, Space Marine 2 at number 3, Astrobot at number 2, and Black Myth Wukong at number 1.
Okay, this is a heater
This is a
of a quarter.
loaded quarter.
This is that fall back to school.
Yeah.
But we don't want you to go to school
Son
lineup
of a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
every year.
Yep. So we're gonna start with the 1-4 matchup. Because I feel like it.
This is this is the only 2 games against each other that both broke the internet.
Yes.
Black Myth Wukong, like for all of the stuff that like it had going on to the story, the graphics, the combat, everything, like really kind of took everything by storm. And I've watched a lot of like other content creators and stuff online on Instagram who like loved playing Black Myth Wukong.
Mhm.
But I'm with Jordan. EA College Football has been something everyone has wanted for so long. And when it came back, it took over. Like it
10 years.
absolutely took over.
People were like buying themselves whole new systems just
Yes.
to play it.
Yeah. 10
I
years
know, like-
since we've had the last one.
I would like to revert back to the F124 argument.
Oh,
That-
okay.
This EA 24 or College Football 24 is what Marvel Rivals is doing to Overwatch. It is just,
It's just
a sports.
Ding,
it's
ding,
just another
ding.
sports game, but they've
Yeah.
sprinkled in that nostalgia. They've just gone, hey,
Yeah.
you haven't had this for a
No
while. Remember this? And everyone from our generation is like, holy shit, I remember college football. It was the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so to
fuck.
give more review or context, Wukong Metascore of 81, user score with over 6,000 reviews at 8.3.
Okay.
Okay, pretty solid. College Football 25, Metascore of 83, significantly less critic reviews. Same with user score. User score only 265 user ratings, but it's at a 5.4.
Oh dang. Those are probably the people like that reviewed it after they had a bug or like something that
Yeah.
like where you're like falling over and the guy throws an 80-yard bomb somehow that you know.
Yeah.
Fuck this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They lost
Yeah.
one match online horribly and
Yeah.
then just
Guys like running circles doing hurdles over all of your players and you're just like,
Man.
man, fuck this game. I'm gonna
Yeah, so I would go Black Myth Wukong because in today's day and age of fucking sequels and remakes and rehashing the same IPs over and over, and that's not just games, that's movies and TV shows and everything.
Everything.
It was
Everything.
nice. It was nice to play a brand new IP from a brand new studio that felt fresh. And that alone for me holds a ton of weight. So yeah, Black Myth for me wins this matchup for sure. And I loved college football.
yeah.
I've got like 30 hours into it. But
I love a good sports game, and I love the nostalgia of that or whatever. But I agree. I think for the story and kind of like what that game looked like, I would have to go with Black Myth Wukong. That game looked so fucking good.
Trevor's analogy with Marvel Rivals and
It makes a lot of sense. It was really good.
It makes complete sense. It's the member berries, right? Like they just
It's so funny now to notice, like, this obviously happens with all the generations before us, but we are now the target demographic of remakes and shit. And it feels so goofy because you get kids who are like, whoa, this new thing came out. And you're like, oh, fuck. Like,
God damn it.
That was what I was wearing in high school. Like, Jesus. Like,
motherfucker, do you know who Wu-Tang is?
Yeah, it's all coming back. Yeah. It's circling back a little too quickly, I think. Like, they're like, these people have money now, right? And we're like, no, we don't. But like, they'll buy this thing. They love it. But yeah, I think like college football, I won't like, I think they did a lot of things that are slightly updated that are going to help like the NFL series and things like that. I'm glad they brought it back. I just don't think at the end of the day, it looks better, but I was like, this looks like every other football game I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think, again, it's banking on the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
And
it was cool to see the college teams get like stuff and likeness of those players and like for them to get some royalty and stuff out of it this time, which is kind of nice. But
and like the whole like recruiting thing and like having like text players and like
gotta go to class
and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. That stuff is all really fun. Yeah. It's super cool.
Okay.
But Wukong.
All right, give me 1 sec here. Let me get
this next one. This is like, to me,
this is tough.
Next matchup. This is the toughest one of that I put out on here. I was like, I think this is the worst matchup there is.
Now, okay, so I'm gonna lead in with some Metacritic score. I'm gonna start with Warhammer because it's the lower seed. Metacritic score of 82, user score with over 900 user ratings of 8.1.
Okay, pretty
consistent. So like pretty consistent.
Close.
Yeah. Now, Astrobot. It has a Metascore and a special award. The Metascore is 94, and it earned a Metacritic Must Play award.
Ooh.
The user score with over like 3,800 user ratings is 9.2.
Wow.
Yep.
This as far as like, again, 2 more games that were like quite viral with things for very different reasons.
Yep.
Extremely.
Now, I would argue Space Marine was more viral than Astrobot.
Like, I would agree. Yeah.
I think Astrobot has a distinct PlayStation based audience.
Yes.
It's like geared towards younger players, as well as like the playful nostalgia that we were just talking about. Like it always has that intertwined within it. But I would say Warhammer way surpassed it on internet
the
presence.
Backing of the entire 40K fucking fandom.
That whole community.
Yeah.
Now I haven't played Astrobot yet, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. That was kind of going to be like
it's on sale right now.
Is it?
Ooh, Christmas! Christmas!
It's on sale.
Mm-hmm. But I did play Space Marine, and to be completely honest, I got bored very quickly.
I didn't even finish that game.
No, not at all. We played a bit together, and like the 3-player was the best part, but it just the
4th player. Just God, come on.
The problem for me is that like, this like 40K Space Marine skin you put on it is great, but you take that away and it is just another 3rd-person spacey shooter.
It's Gears of War.
It is Gears of War
minus
without
the cover. Yeah, minus the cover.
Yeah.
And like I played the multiplayer stuff too. It was
doesn't need to be there. It didn't need to be there.
No, but they added it. So I'm gonna vote for Astrobot on this one purely out of the fact that Sony took something that was strong just from like that free release game that they released and pushed into this whole new world, created a story, created some dope ass controllers they'll never release.
Yeah,
And like,
don't even. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yes,
we did. Yeah,
I think regardless of like the virality across platforms, I still think Astrobot was like a better game and had longevity, and you know people want to play it.
And that's where your last point is where I disagree.
Ooh.
So I don't think Astrobot has longevity. I think Astrobot is like a game that you pick up and you play and you enjoy it and you finish it and it's over.
Sorry, like, I meant longevity as far as playing it all the way through.
I know, I hear you, but I would like I'm thinking longevity and like continuing to play. There are still lots of people playing Warhammer, Space Marine. Like
yeah,
like yes, the multiplayer is kind of like we didn't really get into it, which is fine. I played a little bit with our buddy Fuzzy, but like, you know, there's PvP, there's PvE, there's the story, there's like, you know, you have some customization bits to it. More stuff is coming. There is like a plan for that game to go on into the future.
Yeah, they've got
like,
a whole
for
roadmap.
me, that like again with the presence online, and I like we got to play the beta of it at GameCon. I love Astrobot, and because I love the nostalgia and like all the little pieces of the PlayStation and like using the cord, like the PlayStation cord to climb and things like that. I love stuff like that. It's great. But I would say like in terms of how the game took over and is playable again, different systems like and is still going. I actually vote for Space Marine.
I just
Our first non-unanimous.
I think my biggest issue with Space Marine is again, I understand that we're maybe not necessarily the target audience for that game to like keep coming back and playing it again and again. But like our generation grew up on platformers, whether it was side scroller platformers, 3D platformers
Mario
were introduced.
64. Yes.
To me, there is like a quintessential platformer every generation. And like the last platformer for me that felt this fun to play was Super Mario 3D World on the 3DS. Like that game was perfection from start to finish. I think it had levels that you could go back to even today that would hold up really well. You know, the music was great, level design was great, mechanics felt good. I think that's going to be Astrobot. You know, Astrobot, I can still picture in my head specific levels that I played where I was like, man, that was cool as shit. Like that was so much fun. And they have said that they are going to support that game down the line. They're going to add new levels, new time trials, and all. And
yeah, they've been doing their time trials. I think they just finished their weekly release of time trials. That's, I mean, it is what it is, but
yeah. But yeah, like I mean, if we look back on the PS5, Xbox Series X generation, when we move on to whatever's next, like top platformer of the generation to me is Astrobot. Like that kind of stands the test of time. Whereas as soon as we get a new Gears of War, which could very well hit the tail end of the Series X before we get a new console, I don't think anybody's
considering how well this one did. I could see it.
I don't think anybody is talking Space Marine 2 as soon as the new Gears of War comes out. I think that whole player base jumps over to that.
Yeah, I could see that.
So to me, I think Astrobot is the more impactful game. Maybe not the most viral of the two, but I think long term it'll be the more impactful game.
Well said. Just because you agree with me.
Astrobots. I agree.
I just want to say I still seeded this properly. I'm
Yes,
3
you
for
did.
3 here.
Yeah, you-
for the
That
corner.
is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, I think Astrobot, like Jordan said, like I think with Warhammer, like I was so hyped because the game looked so good. There was so much stuff, but once you got into the kind of the grind of it, like I was very whelmed. Like I
Yes.
felt very repetitive, which is so funny because both these games I would say are very repetitive. But in the way where Astro
Yeah.
adds a bit of whimsy to it. So even if you're doing the same thing, there's little tweaks and quirks to it, or there's a new little thing that you transform into, or there's a new little hidden thing you have to find. Whereas I found with Space Marine, it felt like a lot of the same. It was like movie tropes, right? They were just like, okay, these guys are going to climb onto each other again on the 10th level. I've done this in a row. These guys are trying to climb up here. I got to shoot them. And then like some of the stuff we talked about in that episode, just with like the dodging,
Some of the mechanics, yeah.
just some of the mechanics just felt off, and it definitely felt more like it lent itself more to a Gears of War game.
Right.
And just I don't know, yeah, it's just like same thing. The story didn't like completely grip me to the point.
I didn't
where
mind it, Jordan.
it wasn't terrible. I wouldn't call it a bad story. I just don't think it was one of those ones where you're like, oh, like I gotta know what happens.
I think it just ended a bit too abruptly. Like I think Daryl and I were surprised when we hit the final mission. We were like, "Oh, like is this the end of the
We're done?
game?"
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
So that took.
Well, it does. It's kind of got that cliffhanger-esque kind of moment, and if you know anything about the previous games, then you'll know that's like, okay, like this is like it is leading up to more. Like,
Yeah.
Of course, it's Warhammer. There's always more.
yeah,
There's always more
Never
content.
More to spend. All right. So that settles it for quarter three.
wow, the 1s and 2s just coming through.
I know.
Did a
Well
really good
seated,
job.
Daryl.
Yeah,
Well
great-
seated.
Great
Yeah.
work.
Did a
Now-
really good job here.
Quarter four. We have Dragon Age the Veilguard at the 4 spot. DBZ Sparking 0 at 3. Power Rangers Reader's Revenge at 2. That's a high seed for a game that just came out. And
Oh my gosh.
Metaphor Refantasio, which I have no idea.
Refantasio.
Refantasio.
I'm
All
so
right,
glad somebody else did that because the first time I read that in my head, I was like, "It's a metaphor of Refantasio."
So we're going to start with the 2 and 3 seed here. So we've got Dragon Ball Sparking 0. The Metascore is 81. The user score is 8.5 on over 900
Oh,
reviews. Power Rangers right now just came out
Yes,
yesterday.
from when we're recording this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It came out so like a week ago for you folks. The Metascore right now is at a 74 based on not many reviews. Because it's so new.
It's the only score from the meta I would say is not fair to use currently.
No, I would say it's too early.
Yeah.
But
I would agree.
Daryl, Jordan, you guys both hopped on for a bit today to play Power
Yes.
Rangers.
Fuck yeah, we did.
You guys have also played Sparking 0.
Yes.
So
This is kind
Fuck
of
yeah, we did.
this is kind of my
Sparking
Jordan's-
0 players playing.
Yeah,
oh, has the player base dropped off that much already?
I think
What?
I think it went way down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude.
that's
Yeah.
I pretty much Googled it, and that was the number one thing. They're like the peak when it came out, Sparking 0 hit about 122,000
Okay.
like player peak. It currently sits at 3,500.
Yeah. They're like.
I think, unfortunately, although we did talk about how cool it would be for this game to work online with like the builds and different combo team matchups,
Right.
I think
It's
a lot
not
of people played
balanced
this
yet.
like as a story game. Yeah. And if it's not balanced and if it's not going to hit the competitive scene, I think people played it for the cool story portion.
It was an
and then
interesting
kinda-
take on that. Like, and we
Yeah.
talked about it in our episode, but I like just to further your point, Trevor. Like what happened was is people found out how to break it, and like,
Yeah.
and it became very apparent that like if you weren't playing as like these sort of like certain duos of super strong characters in your online thing, like you were just never gonna win. Like it just wasn't gonna happen. So like the power dynamic that they tried to create it very, very quickly became infuriating for people and caused kind of its own demise in the online competitive community. So
yeah, I don't think that game's ever gonna take off with the competitive scene. I don't think it ever will.
No. In hindsight, again, I've talked about this with Jordan because like him and I played like quite a bit up front, and then like I kind of swapped. I went back to Mortal Kombat for a bit, and then started playing Dragon Age. But it's like my problem with Dragon Ball now is like the move back to the Tenkaichi fighting style to me became problematic as the game went on. Like as things got harder and the fights got harder, even in story mode, I was like, you know what? Like if they would have kept the same controls from Kakarot and just treated this like the Dragon Ball Super story mode game that they kind of created on this timeline, this game would have probably had a lot more success and would still have more people playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just a little bit more approachable.
Well, approachable for sure. But like Daryl and I, yeah, we talked about this briefly. And I think the biggest issue is like Kakarot was more of a combo based combat system, which just felt more in tune with Dragon Ball as a franchise.
Yeah, it evolved. All of the games had evolved into that moment, and I was like, "Wow, they figured it out. They did it."
Yeah, and like it feels really good to play. Whereas with Sparking Zero, the game relies so much on timing a specific button and stick like press at the precise moment to counter what the other player's doing. But the issue with that is if you don't make that exact counter when you need to, then you're basically like ragdolled into this endless combo until you get like body slammed into the earth, and then you're like, okay, well now I can try it again. And so it just, for the players that were really good with specific characters, but even to Daryl's point in the story mode, the difficulty spike kind of jumps pretty hard as you kind of get past like the Cell Saga. Like it kind of does this, and it became less about me learning cool combos, and it just honestly it became more about how can I effectively block?
Can I win this?
Yeah, like how can I block? How can I teleport? And how can I cheese it? Yeah. And so that got a bit tiresome, unfortunately, because the game looks beautiful. The story, like the whole idea of the multiversal story, I thought was super, super cool. And like the massive character list is great to actually be able to play as all these.
Yeah, I thought, but I was like, by the end, I was like, okay, Xenoverse 2 is a better game than this.
Yeah. And I think like you said, I think the online, a game like this is the online competitive, not necessarily pro, but just online side of it. If people are just going to get super greasy,
it goes away.
Which they have.
Well, that's just not fun anymore, right?
Yeah.
I become the same thing, and then it's not fun for me. So it's just like there's no creativity. It kind of becomes like
diversity in it.
Well, it becomes like that last end of like Warzone kind of thing where you're like, if I'm not using these two exact builds, I might as well not be playing the game.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. Yeah. And then it's just like, well, that's not fun at all.
Exactly it. No. Yeah. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because I agree with Daryl. Kakarot was so fun.
It was amazing. I love that game.
Such a fun game. And to be able to branch into the Dragon Ball Super like storyline, I would have loved if they just continued with the Kakarot engine. You know,
give me the Kakarot 2 and give me the Dragon Ball Super story.
Yeah, like give me the visuals of Sparking Zero.
No,
but use the combat mechanics of Kakarot. I think that would be a perfect blend.
So
now, in terms of Power Rangers,
Speaking of nostalgia and
let's hear it on the other side here.
Getting
Oh
swayed
my
by
god,
nostalgia.
this game is so fun already. Like,
So good.
we dabbled it. Like, I would say, like, we're a pretty good chunk all the way, like, in there. I have no idea how many levels are in the story mode.
Yeah, no idea.
But Jordan and I were having so much fun. So very similar to Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. It's like an old, it's got that like 16-bit looking like art style. It's, you know, the side scroller beat 'em up. It's typical for a lot of games that we all grew up playing. Even the character sprites look very similar to like the original Power Rangers game on Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Zack is far less like racist. It is actually like a good depiction. So yes.
Big oof on that one.
Yeah.
But so like great fix. And but like we were laughing, and there's so many good like dialogue jokes. There are like little Easter eggs within it. But it's got different things, and I'll let Jordan speak to it. Is like it's got different things that Shredder's Revenge did not have.
Yeah. So like the really cool thing about this too, like, you know, the Easter eggs, they've remixed a lot of the original music from the OG show. And so like there are certain parts in the game where the music is immediately recognizable. And like it transported me back to a elementary school kid coming home, turning on the show and like, oh my God, that's where that song is from.
Yeah.
But
it's when you talk to Bulk and Skull and the music that like is always on when they're on in the show immediately kicks in.
Yeah. But like the cool thing that it diverges with Shredder's Revenge is yes, there you've got the same levels where there's beat 'em ups and you're doing all that shit. But throughout the short time that Daryl and I played, we rode motorcycles with machine guns.
Of course.
And it's not side scrolling. It's straight
face
on. Face on view. We did like a we were on a roller coaster shooting guns. and then we also had an entire level where we were the Zord parts. We weren't the Megazord yet. We were just the parts. So I was so I was the Blue Ranger, Daryl was the Black Ranger, and we were just our piece of the Megazord. And so we were doing stuff in there. It's like
it's awesome, dude. It's so good.
Yeah. It really breaks up the monotony of just the same stuff in every level. The boss fights are super fun. The music is fucking incredible. I'll say that again. And it gets hard, dude. Like we fought Bones.
It's actually hard.
Yeah, the last boss fight was Bones. I don't know if you guys remember what Bones looks like, but he was hard.
In the first Super Nintendo, he's like the guy that's like a skeleton but has a pirate hat, essentially, or like a musketeer's hat.
Oh,
yeah. And in the first game, he's like one of the first bosses you fight against.
Like
and even in the original game, when it's just his head floating around, it's super hard to hit him. And it was the exact same thing.
It was so fucking hard to hit in this too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but it's so good. It's so colorful. It's like,
And the way the story goes, I won't spoil it for anybody, but like I already said to Daryl, I was like, man, they got so many chances for DLC and expansions, whether that's introducing different generations of Power Rangers or just bringing in bosses from like newer shows. Like I'm actually excited to see what they add to the game. Because
me too.
The story has made it very easy for them to add stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like we're only maybe 2 hours in, hour and a half in, and
I love it.
That game's already like a 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
All right, that'll be one we pick up and play together soon here.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Power Rangers, move through.
Yeah, I think
it's a no-brainer.
I think
Power Rangers wins this like by a landslide. It's like this game is so fun.
Okay. All right. Now for the very last one. We have Dragon Age: The Veilguard against Metaphor Rifantasio. Now, Dragon Age obviously had some like review bombing criticism kind of deal. This is the biggest gap we have between the Metascore and the user score.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that user score looks great.
Yeah, the Metascore is 82.
Okay.
Yeah. User score is 3.8.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not surprised even a little bit.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's a big gap.
Well, I think we can say it's not a 3.8. It's not a 3.8.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Metaphor Rifantasio, Metascore, and a Metacritic Must Play award of 94.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a user score with over 1,600 reviews of 8.8.
Wow. High. Okay.
Yeah, if people haven't seen it, the biggest one I'm seeing is like it's a bad score, but someone referred to it as like Persona 5. Like it's kind of how it, if you don't know the game, that's kind of how it relates.
Persona meets Fire Emblem, I think, is the best amalgamation of this.
But of all the reviews, there's like 125 negative reviews. There is 1,400 positive.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's something.
This game has been on my radar from day one. So as soon as I saw some of the gameplay mechanics, anything that even remotely looks like Fire Emblem, I have to pay attention to because I'm always looking for like a comparable.
You need a replacement?
Yeah,
I do. Because I feel like Fire Emblem on the Switch, like for me, those games were not as good as previous titles. So am I kind of looking for something that kind of draws back to more of the focus on the combat and less on the like, what are we doing at the hub? Can you talk to every person possible at the hub? And it's like, for fuck's sakes, just let me get back to the fight. So Metaphor Rifantasio is something that is very, very intriguing to me, and even the art style I'm into. So, yeah.
And I mean, like Dragon Age is still pretty fresh in our minds too.
I'm still playing it. I'm almost done.
Yeah.
But I think I got like less than 10 hours left.
I mean, I already said it on our deep dive of Dragon Age in that episode, but like the Veilguard is one of the best 7 out of 10s I've played this generation.
Right.
And like, you know, Metaphor on this whole list, Metaphor is one of only 3 games that I have not played. But I'm with Daryl. Like we're gonna game share this on Steam because both of us for sure are gonna play it. I could even see Trevor maybe at some point dabbling in it at some point too.
Not me.
Not Kyle. We know this.
No, definitely not a Kyle game.
Kyle will not play this.
No. But like I love tactics games. I love RPGs. The art style looks beautiful. I get sucked in with a lot of games when it's like there's branching storylines, and if you make this decision, it's going to have a ripple effect that's going to change things down here. I love stuff that. So I think we would be crucified by the gaming community if we didn't choose Metaphor to beat this matchup. Like, I think that's just a no-brainer.
I don't think you can even refute the Metascore on this one. Like, it's just kind of meant to be there for a reason. And I've played Dragon Age for like 60 plus hours now, and I'm at the point in this one where I'm like, I played enough Inquisition to say I think Inquisition was better than Veilguard. I would agree. Like for that, I think for that kind of reason, I'm like, it's good. It's got some nice facets. It's an easy time sink game at times.
Yeah.
But I've now hit the point, Jordan, where I'm like, oh my God, can I just get to the final mission of like everyone's thing? Like, why am I having these like 1,400 conversations about like the thing I need to do? Like, let's just go do it.
Yeah.
Just too much.
Do you live in my house?
But so I think Metaphor's got this one. Let's make it a clean sweep. Let's make my seating look absolutely incredible here.
Perfect.
And let's go straight 1s and 2s across the board.
Yeah.
I feel like last year we had upsets, didn't we?
We did.
We had one or
We
two
did
upsets.
have some upsets.
Yeah,
But this year has been average, I would say, in the gaming space.
Whelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we're not
overwhelmed this year.
bending the rules here, there's a little less argument.
We're sticking to it.
And honestly,
now we've talked about all the games, so we can just kind of argue who wins each thing now.
Okay, let's go back to it. Quarter 1, Helldivers 2 versus Tekken 8. I think it's Helldivers, guys.
I agree.
I would do Tekken.
As much as I hate it, as much as I hate that, like, you would take it, because honestly, I think Tekken 8 has the longevity of what it's going to need to carry through here and to keep going. Yeah. But I would say, like, and Helldivers fucked over its fans a little bit when they made some of those changes to, like, some of the weapons and some of the loadouts and some of the things that we're carrying across. So, and like, they kind of killed their own game by, like, not listening to the fans and, like, not listening to the people that were playing it. Whereas, like, Tekken is still the quintessential fighting title. It's still
true.
It's just so niche, though. That's the problem.
It is.
Well, but
Helldivers as a game is dead. Like, people are still playing Tekken 8.
It's true.
Like to give you an idea. Here, let me just pull it up. Like, yeah, so Tekken 7 came out 9 years ago. So, like, think of it that way. You know, Tekken 8 is probably going to be around for at least 6 years.
Yep.
And it's going to have a solid player base the entirety of its run. And it's going to be at professional competitions. And I think Helldivers at the end of 2025, like, I don't think people are talking about Helldivers after another year.
Dude, did people stop talking about Helldivers in September? Like, it was like the game died.
Yeah,
democracy was no longer being spread at, like, such a willful rate.
Well, and they were supposed to introduce a new faction, and they're taking way too long to do so. And, like, just a lot of the content that they promised got pushed back because all the nerfs and buffs that they did to gear, they fucked up. And so they were like, well, we got to fix all this before we even introduce any new content. And so now it's just created this deserted landscape of, you know, there's just not much excitement going on with it. So, you know, say what you will about the fighting community, but they are fucking passionate.
But is this the game of the next 5 years award or the game of this year?
Yeah, no, I'm with you, because I was like, if there's not a single game on this list that broke the internet like, the way that
Shadow of Helldivers did.
Oh, okay. I have an interesting
it did. I don't think Elden Ring broke the internet the way Helldivers did. I don't think
not the way the original
can compete it with that.
Okay, so I have the Steam charts up right now. So, like, looking at concurrent players.
Yeah.
Yep.
Helldivers 2 in the last 24-hour peak, 22,000 plus.
Okay.
Tekken 8, 24-hour peak, 6,700.
But Tekken's sitting at like 11% of the original playership versus Helldivers, which is sitting at about 5%.
Right, but like when it goes viral like that, of course it's going to drop off. But like October,
but you can't argue with percentages. We're not talking hard numbers here.
We're talking about consistency.
Yeah, we're talking about a percentage.
But
I
like
still feel like
based loss.
I still feel like Tekken is the better choice. It is a more polished, complete game, top to bottom. Take the virality out. And just look at the game itself.
Just vote. Who's voting for what? Let's just vote.
Okay, I'm voting Helldivers.
I'm voting Tekken. Okay.
Me. All right.
I mean, I don't like. It's one of those ones. I don't think either of these games makes it past the final four. I don't know. It's hard to say with our list that we have, but
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tekken 8.
Tekken super specialized, Helldivers for the masses, but not as good and complete.
Okay. Quarter 2. Stellar Blade and Banishers.
Banishers. Next.
I'm saying Banishers. I was like, Stellar Blade just, it took over the internet for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
It almost lost the first round. It barely,
it barely
out
made
that
it.
win.
Yeah. Stellar Blade.
But it was the most popular game of that quarter.
Yeah. Stellar Blade is all style, no substance. It is
Banishers has got substance.
Yeah, it's a 6 out of 10. I played it for 15 hours and I could not bring myself to see it through. It just is boring as fuck.
All right. Next quarter, Black Myth Wukong versus Astrobot.
This one is tough. Ooh. That is tough.
This is your big matchup.
I gotta go Black Myth Wukong, man. Astrobot is so fucking good, but I gotta go Black Myth.
I'm gonna go opposite.
I think
Astrobot. Yeah.
I gotta put my boy down, I think.
Oh, he's doing it. I was like, I'm voting Black Myth. So
I think just based off of uniqueness, there was certain Astrobot kind of gave a proposition and it delivered exactly on that, right? We weren't bamboozled, we weren't concorded, we weren't whatever you want to call it. We weren't Concord great. But Black Myth took a risk and it really delivered and it looked incredible. Like Astrobot looked cool, but it was also very simple, right? It is not a insanely crazy game, right? It is a game more for kids to get into PlayStation. Black Myth took a lot of other things and created this awesome story game. So
you could also look at Astro as a sequel game. You know, we had Astro's Playroom and we had Astrobot Rescue Mission on VR. So they've had some time to perfect that franchise.
That's true.
Right.
Whereas the sampler, the PS5 sampler was hey, do people still like platformers? Do people like this?
Yeah,
honestly,
and
then this was more of the proof of concept. Be if we make a full game, will people play it?
Will people play it? And they did.
Yes. And then the next one is going to be I think it's going to be your Mario Odyssey, Mario Galaxy. Hey, let's really spend some time and money on this instead of wasting it on other shitty PlayStation exclusives. And let's make this really awesome and good.
I could see that.
I agree 100%.
All right. So Black Myth.
Black Myth
first one seed going in.
The monkey beats the robot.
I mean, that kind of leads into our next one, which is Power Rangers against
ReFantazio.
Yeah. So ReFantazio number 1, Power Rangers number 2.
I think I gotta go Metaphor, man.
I agree.
I think I gotta go Metaphor.
Power Rangers is not tested enough. It's the late entry.
It is a late entry. It's true.
Someone got sick and came out of the competition and they had to fill
Maybe it'll have some legs moving forward, but you guys aren't wrong. I would love to vote Power Rangers on this one just because I absolutely love Power Rangers, but I think Metaphor is probably the better game overall.
I think it'll fall into the TMNT, the Shredder's Revenge a bit as well. Once you beat it once, you might go back, play with your buddies a couple times. There might be an update or two, but I don't think it's going to have that longevity that Metaphor as a franchise does.
I'm afraid at how much time I'm going to spend in Metaphor when
that's a commitment.
Yeah.
JRPG with a capital J. Just
yes. Yeah. And branching stories. I bet you there's probably multiple endings in that game too. So that's going to be a game that's just dying to be replayed more than once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Top 4.
Q1 versus Q2.
Yeah. Q1, Q2. We've got Tekken 8 versus Banishers. I think this is the weaker side of it.
Well, it is the weaker side.
It was the weaker part of the year. So.
Yeah.
It was.
I have no dog in this fight.
No.
Well, you got to make a choice.
Okay, well, I'm glad to know you're not Michael Vick, but that's.
Oh.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, God.
I mean, if we're talking about longevity, like Tekken 8 over Banishers.
I think just for notoriety too. Like I completely forgot Banish. Like I remember hearing about it at release, but I forgot it existed until Jordan's like, "Hey, this actually was really good." Like it's not a bad thing. It's just it wasn't one of those mainstream.
The Cinderella story of Tekken 8, just moving on.
What is happening?
I can't even argue, eh? I'm not even allowed to argue. I can't sway votes. The fuck is this shit?
I think in this one you get a little bit more even into player base, and I don't think as many people. There's not as many people out there banging the drum for Banishers. Like you just don't see it anywhere.
No.
I think
this is probably our next match was supposed to be the final.
Yeah.
I think honestly, Trevor, like to me, Banishers, I think is gonna be exactly what happened with Plague Tale. Like nobody played Plague Tale Innocence when it first came out, and then it was super cheap and it was free on PS Plus eventually, and then people were like, "Holy fuck, this game's amazing!" Yeah, and then the sequel, the Requiem, that game had marketing. People were hyped about it. Like it got awards.
Yeah,
I kind of think Banisher. Well, it's like Focus Entertainment, right? No. Funny enough, it's the exact same publisher as Plague Tale. It's Focus Entertainment. But funny. I can't think of the developer off the top of my head.
Just like an unproven IP, so they just got zero marketing, right?
Yeah.
PlayStation was too busy pumping out Forspoken ads at the time or something.
Yeah.
Please play this game we invested in. Please.
All right.
We'll
This is tough.
All right. So Tekken 8 was the call?
Tekken 8 is the call.
I think
Tekken 8,
what
man. Tekken 8.
What is happening?
The return of Eddie Gordo, just like really taking everyone by storm.
All right. Quarter 3 and quarter 4, we've got Black Myth, Wukong, and Refantasio.
Son of a bitch.
I think
this should be the final. Like this really should be.
Yeah. I think based off of previous arguments of what took over the internet more, what are more people aware of, and just like what really got people hyped up, I think you have to go Wukong.
I do too.
I agree.
Metaphor, like Fire Emblem, although great, is a very niche and like kind of specific.
Persona 5 is even like kind of like it's very popular, but still has a niche kind of like following.
Yeah,
like,
it's like one of those ones where people are like, "This is a great anime," but only like 10% of people like really love it, and everyone else is kind of like, like I see it, but
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. I think Metaphor, it's one of those things where it's like critically highly regarded, reviewed very, very well, but not necessarily the most enjoyable experience for the masses. It's like watching that movie in the theater where critics panned it and said it was shit. You come out of the theater, you're like, man, that was fun as fuck. Like I really enjoyed that.
That was amazing.
I think that's kind of this situation. Like, I'm going to love Metaphor when I play it. Yeah, but probably. I feel that. Just the mechanics and, like, again, style versus substance, the style factor of Black Myth. It is unique. It stands apart from other stuff.
And that shit exploded.
Yeah, it did.
Like
for a good reason.
Absolutely.
All right.
So
in the final 2024 game of the year, good enough gaming style, it is.
We have Tekken 8 versus Black Myth Wukong. And to be completely honest,
it is a landslide victory here.
This is like
the Cinderella story is over for Tekken, everybody.
This is like that March Madness where you get to the final and the one team wins by like 30 and you're like, oh, that kind of sucked.
It's like, oh man. Yeah, I think that's an easy decision.
Yeah. So, congratulations to Black Myth Wukong.
Congratulations, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Earth Tree.
Congratulations, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Nope.
Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Again, somehow.
Yeah.
The Last of Us 2 remastered.
Yeah.
Now,
all right. So,
did you guys, before we wrap it up, did you guys pick your unique category? What?
Or are we going to tease that? Is that what we're talking about?
Oh, I thought we were doing that on next episode.
In a couple weeks, we are going to have the Good Enough Gaming Awards to kind of cap off the year. We have a special episode coming out on New Year's Day that is for the Good Enough Gaming, like our own awards. So
yes,
just know that we have something cooking in the bag for you guys that's coming up that you can look forward to.
Cooking in the bag. It's a new way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So there will be new special categories. In fact, we've already determined our game of the year, so that won't be talked about. But we have other ones we would want to bring up, we want to talk about, because we think it's important to recognize games that might not necessarily get recognized for game of the year, but are still amazing games.
Yep.
Correct.
So thank you for sitting through that marathon of a gaming episode.
Supersize.
We hope you agree. If you don't, argue with us. Tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah, if we're just going to prove you wrong.
We're
okay.
not
You have to
wrong,
stick to the rules.
That's okay.
You have to stick to the rules.
Guidelines.
Very strict rules.
We follow Metacritic ratings. We think about the impact on the gaming community. We think about what we want as consumers and what is right for the gaming community.
No remakes, no DLCs.
No.
I don't care if it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and it's completely different from the original. It's a fucking remake.
So different.
As sad as it makes Daryl, it is so different. And it's
nobody's buying our 7 out of 10 reviews, IGN. Nobody's doing that here.
So, once again, thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate you tuning in. I think that was good enough. Awards.
Good enough.
Good enough.
Good enough.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for more content. We also invite you to write an email or join us on Discord to talk about anything from our episodes or something else you would like to discuss in the future. Please subscribe to the Good Enough Gaming Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. And remember, we might not be great, but we are good enough.